So when I was first trying to write this video, I had a lot of trouble getting my thoughts down. See, the point of this video was actually to express something kind of esoteric. What I wanted, when I first started, was to draw a link between the method in which we consume our media and how we approach our issues in our daily lives. I do feel like whether this is insane to think or not, there are things we can extract about people's personalities based on how they consume media. But that's kind of the issue. It's a complicated topic. When I was first trying to write, I tried so hard to bring into all these interrelated concepts and complex marketing schemes and, but something just seemed off about it. Mostly because I felt like it was missing the point. Talked a lot about monetization schemes and psychology of business and all these different ways that companies get you to buy their loot boxes or spend 5 more minutes on a game or watch 1 more season of a show. But I realized that I was kind of dancing around the real subject I had in my heart. That being that I love video games and TV shows and movies and books and just art. I've learned so much from watching them, playing them, enjoying them. I have grown not just as an individual, but grew to understand others through their enjoyment of them too. And I want to bring in all these objective metrics and life experiences and analytics I've gathered to support my feelings, but the problem is that there aren't actually many because this is just a feeling that I have. I may be right, I may be wrong, I don't know. As you can tell, this video is going to be a little bit more personal, and I won't be using as many objective statements and might even generalize quite a bit. But my point isn't to tear anyone down or blanket statements say that we're going about things the wrong way. It's just a very ethereal concern of what our content consumption might mean and how we can become more aware of it. At the very least, hopefully we can just use these ideas to make a better story. Chapter 2. So let's start by asking a question. Have you ever watched a show and thought, I never want this to end? Or played a game and thought, I could play this game forever? Usually these statements are made during a sort of euphoria we experience, especially during the highlights of a show or game, when they deliver that spectacular season finale, or when we hit that peak moment in a game. It gives this rush that in some ways make us never want it to end. It can be beautiful, really, to be inspired by just a simple piece of media. But I think regardless of this feeling, there is a dark truth that kinda lays behind this phenomenon, and it's the ultimate knowledge and truth that nothing lasts forever. Yeah, I know, it's kinda dark. But let's be rational just for a second. Very seldomly could we actually play a game forever, and very seldomly do shows actually last forever. And even if we do play a game or watch a TV show for our whole life, then we won't ever feel that same rush of emotions we did back to a certain point. We need it to be happy. I think some of you are starting to see where I'm going with this. But what scares me about it is what happens when we rely so much on it, and then it ends. It could be devastating. In some people, I feel like it creates genuine grief. I've felt it. Many people have. But this very phenomenon is the thing that I fear because I've always believed that stories and entertainment and media should live to enhance our lives, not dilute it. And I know many people have strong feelings and might even experience these feelings without being delusional. But I guess these overarching statements are for those of us that aren't, that don't exactly have it together, that maybe are trying to escape from reality too hard, or just trying to get their minds straight. Because in the end, we do have to accept that things change. All things change. And almost everything we know of this moment will either be different or not be there at all in times to come. But this is exactly why I wanted to tackle this, because for many this is the most frightening thing in the world. The end of a friendship, the loss of a significant other, the distance created in a family, or no longer being able to enjoy something the same again. And these things hurt, but I found with time that we have no need to fear them, and that there's actually a beauty and tranquility to the ability of moving on. Chapter 3. So I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit and talk about this topic in a slightly more tangible terms, and how all these ramblings apply to something like a TV show. For I think that at times a piece of media can suffer because of its reluctance to change, especially when it's at the consumer's or the publisher's request. And I realize how non-concrete this statement is, but I think there's a cycle that feeds into itself here. Because if consumers, or at least those of us who it applies to, don't want a game or a show to change, then regardless of the creator's intent, it probably will try not to change, or at least not too much. But this is in direct contradiction to the art of storytelling, and just the simple facts about life, because telling a story is about how it changes and progresses to its inevitable conclusion. And like I just said about life, nothing stays the same. So it's a tough situation we're in, and it happens to all of us. Musicians, artists, game developers, TV directors. I mean, how many times have you heard a band's musical style change over the course of 5 years? Very few actually stick to making the same stuff forever. Or what about when a movie makes a few sequels and they just can't capture the same feeling the first one did? My point is, I feel this ethereal problem of not wanting things to change is correlated to the phenomenon of media not wanting to evolve, that fills them with complex emotions, and it's detrimental to content creators because they won't be allowed to grow and change their art without feeling the repercussions. And for many people, myself included, all of this can lead to some pretty bitter emotions. And isn't that the opposite of what we're trying to do with the media in the first place? In a large way, I feel like we have this unhealthy obsession with wanting to push and push for things to keep going, but then also don't want them to change or become different. Like we incessantly are trying to relive that one feeling, that one time. And I think a lot of media, especially TV shows, concedes to this and works around the contradictory elements of having to progress a story so as to reach a conclusion, but also not change so much that people get upset. The best example I have, honestly, Stranger Things. I watched the first season and was absolutely blown away. I thought it was so damn good. I mean, Winona Ryder's acting, holy shit, I was literally left in tears at some point. And the way it all slowly crept together, and each discovering a little bit of the puzzle as they slowly overlap in this logical and satisfying manner. I mean, that is just truly some good television entertainment. Although I did notice something strange as I continued to watch it, and that every season after season 1 kept feeling like they were trying to be season 1. I mean, in an objective sense, they hit all the same markers and had all the same intertwining storylines and clever mysteries. They had strong characters that acted well and connected in interesting ways, yet somehow season 2 and 3 lost a lot of luster. I could honestly write a whole video about it, but I think the short answer is that instead of creating plot lines and story beats in season 2 and 3 that evolved and changed what we knew about the characters, they were always trying to reinforce things we already knew about the characters. I mean, just as an example, every season of Stranger Things had a moment where Joyce was fervent in believing something even when there was little proof, and everyone thought she was crazy. In season 1, it was the lights. In season 2, it was her son's illness. In season 3, it was magnets. The point is that season 2 and 3 never explored new ideas, specifically in terms of character development, but instead chose to bring back character traits instead of treating them like people that grow and change and act different due to their experience. They were constantly calling back to things they did or said in the first season. I guess the esoteric point that, like myself and many others, the show was somewhat afraid of moving forward and taking risks or just moving on. It just wanted to relive the glory it had in its first season and to accentuate its past achievements, but ultimately made 2 seasons that kinda felt really stale. And despite all the crazy shit that happened, that it still didn't actually accomplish much. Everyone always returned to their lives as normal, and they were all relatively the same people. So I guess what I'm even trying to say is that we should be wary of this behavior as much in ourselves as we do in our media. And at the end of the day, shows and games don't always have to be perfect or intellectually stimulating. Sometimes we can just enjoy something casually, or just play something to turn our brains off. I'm not even saying that Stranger Things has to change to be this way, but I guess in a broad sense, I hope by discussing this, we can all become more aware of how we consume our media and why. Chapter 4. So I was rambling for a while, and I apologize if it was incoherent. I rewrote this script literally 4 times, and I'm still not sure if I said what I was thinking correctly. But if I were to try to boil it down, it would just be that changing is hard. We don't like to see it, yet it happens to us so often that sometimes we are overwhelmed. Even though we all, myself especially, use media to escape from problems or to help quiet our minds from the overwhelming thoughts that burden them, I think that it can be a powerful tool for exploration and catharsis. It can help structure a situation in a new light, or to expand our previous perceptions of something, or just touch on a spot so familiar that it just makes us elated to know that someone understands. It's also a way that our previous thoughts could be challenged, or to make sure that we do think about something that we aren't only considering our own perspective. So when you walk away from this video, I'd just like you to consider how much are we exploring media versus relaxing with it? How much are we nitpicking media versus escaping with it? To me, the answer doesn't matter much, as long as everyone is aware and continuing to try to improve themselves, with media or not. I personally love to use media to enhance my thoughts, my feelings, and experience emotions I wouldn't have otherwise. But even if you're not like me, at least just being able to aim for this in somehow or some way is good enough for me. Because ultimately, our lives are a story, with ups and downs, triumphs and failures, good times and bad times. Like the media we consume, and both in real life, we should accept that things will change, whether we want them to or not. But we should not be afraid of change. We should embrace it and understand that even if people drift, or you might never get to experience something again, that those experiences were still worthwhile, and that the love and fondness that you feel will continue to exist in your heart, and that even if everything was taken from you, that life will have plenty to fill it back up again. So the best thing we can do for ourselves and for the media we consume and create is simply learn how to move on, so that one day we ourselves can make a better story. Hey there, thank you so much for watching my video. I know this one was a little abstract and I got pretty personal, but I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you got something out of it. If there was ever a show or video game that truly changed your perspective on something or helped you cope with something very emotional, then please let me know in the comments. I'm going to try to fall back on more traditional analytics in my next video. If you haven't seen it, I have a personal method of analyzing stories and media, and I have a video that describes it linked here. So if you're interested, go check it out. Otherwise, if you could, like this video and hit subscribe, that would be a huge help, and I'd be ever so grateful. I hope to see you all again, and until next time, see you later, dreamers.